Hello, my name is Brian Burnham. This is Module 10, Teaching Students Their Learning Norms for EDL 852. What are learning norms? What expectations do students have of school? When they enter our buildings, what do they think is going to happen? Most students expect to be pushed and want structure provided by the school. What is keeping the students engaged? Are they motivated by grades? Are they motivated by the social aspect of what school is? Do they just enjoy their extracurricular activities? Or is it a combination of all three of those? Why are we learning? Are students trying to achieve their general ed diploma? Are they trying to prepare for college? Or are they just wanting to meet the adults' expectations that they have in their lives? The first norm that was talked about is relationships. It's my job as a teacher to make each student feel as though that they are the only person in the room at some point during a lesson. The rapport I build with each student is educational equity that I'm building up for when times get tough and stressful. I allow for time in class to have genuine conversations with the students. They need to see me as a human being. I like to share personal information, allowing the students to possibly find something that they might have in common with me. I also try to show students support by attending their extracurricular activities like ball games, band performances, art galleries, etc. The second norm discussed in the video by Leaving to Learn was relevance. Why is what we are learning significant? Students need to see that why we are learning this information just as much as the how. Part of my job is relaying information in a way that students understand that this will be applicable later in life, whether it's in their day-to-day activities or in preparation for college. Teachers must be able to activate prior knowledge, tie in information taught with large group discussions, and clarify the purpose of a lesson to ensure that this norm is met. Norms 3 and 4 were time and timing. What model of classroom are we using? Is it a traditional teacher, lecture, student take notes dynamic? Are we operating in a flipped classroom where the students watch a recording at home of the lesson and we spend class time working on practice and homework problems? Students need to know how much time is being given to them in the classroom for academic tasks. Students intrinsically want to know how much time is dedicated to surface level facts they need to learn and how much think time do they get. Thought time grows interest within individual students. Are the due dates flexible for extenuating circumstances? Do all students need to stay on the same schedule? All assessments are either on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday in our county. Well, at least at Summit. I don't know if that's true across the county for the whole district, but at Summit, we don't give assessments on Fridays and Mondays. So everything is done Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from a testing standpoint. The next norm that was discussed is play. What is encouraged within the classroom? Do I have the opportunity to explore and possibly make mistakes without being labeled a failure? Students need to feel encouraged to tinker and make guesses. Students need to be encouraged to explore their surroundings. Asking questions about things should be a plus, not viewed as time wasting or annoying. Making assignments that are not graded gives students chances to explore. Take as much time as is necessary for students to learn the material properly. And then offer incentives like free time and/or playing games if they accomplish certain goals within the classroom. Practice. Are skills taught and then the next skill is moved on to immediately? Students need to be engaged in deep and meaningful practice to learn the skills that they need. The only thing that receives a grade is the final version, whether it's an assessment or multiple attempts at homework. Whatever that final copy is what would be graded. Students should be allowed to revise and correct any mistakes. At Summit, we use standards-based grading. This allows for assessment retakes. They only have to redo certain sections of a chapter or an assessment versus having to redo the whole test or retake a test, the whole thing. It also helps with progress monitoring. We can be very specific to the parents and let them know what areas that they're struggling the most. Well, I use reflection time to discuss, sometimes in writing, sometimes verbally, how students think they did. Why do they think they received the score that they got? That's a typo, I apologize. The next norm was choice. Does every student follow the same path, or do they have choices of what direction they would like to go? When I first started teaching, the idea of college prep courses or path versus career technical path were a thing where they were separated. And then we got into the No Child Left Behind era where everything is very heavy academic focused and we're getting kids ready for college. And now it feels like we're starting to go back towards some version of career tech choice classes, kind of a hybrid model where you can take college prep classes, but then you can have a CTE skills-based focus area. Are there accelerated courses offered for kids to take that maybe work at a quicker pace? Can students have the option to graduate early if they'd like? Are there options for online practices and learning? One thing that the COVID pandemic did was accelerate the need to have online services available to get kids caught up, to be able to work remotely, attend school completely online, things like that. Excuse me. Authenticity. Will the students feel that their work is valued? Students need to feel that they're doing more than just dittos and worksheets. Make assignments meaningful. Use presentations that involve family backgrounds. Get them to go home and interview their parents. Find out about their heritage or their culture. Make assignments that can be both displayed in and around the school and out into the community. Does the community recognize the value of their work? Bring in outside experts to show significance of a skill in certain areas or career fields. Once a week, once a month, whatever it would be deemed appropriate by your principal, you could have somebody come in from a specific field and talk about whatever topic you're discussing. That would be obviously very appropriate in a setting like a math class or a science class if we're talking about a chemist or some sort of wildlife preserve type person or forest ranger or something like that. Challenge. Is the work being given to students just to check a box, or do they feel appropriately challenged? Teachers need to integrate higher order thinking into each lesson. Ask open-ended questions. We can individualize the learning of the students as much as possible. Set a bar. Make sure the students know what they can achieve and that they can achieve it by taking smaller steps and attacking things a little bit at a time. We could also pair students to allow for collaboration. Higher achieving students can teach the lower achieving ones. This also promotes teamwork. Set a high bar, like we said. Make students rise to a challenge. Give them a challenge and let them accept the challenge. I think you'll be surprised by the results. Finally, the last norm is application. How is material applied outside of the course that it's being taught in? Students need to have the opportunity to apply their knowledge to real-world scenarios. A lecture and note-taking only model have really become a thing of the past. We have to find classroom models where application is readily available. Hands-on activities make this easier. I know in science classes they do labs on a regular basis. That's a great, addition to a classroom is doing science experiments, doing labs, and doing research assignments that allow students to explore what we are learning and how it applies to real life. Have them do a career study on where will this be used. They can look up information about that particular job, how much money they make, what type of calendar they work on. Maybe you introduce them to some material that they're interested in going into that field. You never know. Also, you can bring expert guest speakers in to come and explain topics of the real life situations. There's just so many scenarios that we can do hands-on activities with. Here's my reference page. Obviously one resource, it was pretty simple. And then my personal statements. I'm not going to read these word for word. I thought the standard correlation worked because it taught us the learning norms, which I wasn't, obviously I know what all those things are, but how they apply to the students themselves. I thought that was really cool. It allowed us to see that students have expectations of us as teachers and of the school itself. And as teachers and educators, if we know those expectations before the kids arrive, then we can do things in our classroom that will allow them to get answers to their questions or see those expectations being met. I also thought this model or this module or assignment was relevant because it forced us to acknowledge what those expectations students have, and as teachers we can use that to plan our lessons, be aware of those expectations, and plan accordingly. Building relationships, offering choices, promoting play, challenging students, being authentic with our delivery, and the work that is expected of students are just a few of the norms that we discussed. I think knowing these norms will allow me to not only be a much better educator, but as a future building leader, I'll be able to instill these same norms and expectations into my future faculty and staff. This is the only page where I had something covered up, so I'm going to move this video up to show my personal reflection. This was one of my favorite assignments. I've got the last two or three have been really, really significant to me in my opinion. They kind of hit home. I really liked them. Learning these norms and hearing ways to apply them to our classroom has really brought value to what I think my classroom can be. It's not going to do anything but make us better educators. I'm excited for the opportunity to share this new knowledge with my co-teacher that I'm working with this year, the peers that I coach and teach with, and then the colleagues that I have outside of our school and in the rest of the county. Thank you for your attention. That concludes my presentation.